I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed, and after 25 years studying sleep in adults over 60, there is one pattern I've seen more than any supplement trend, any diet shift, or any lifestyle change. The night doesn't fail at the beginning, it fails in the middle. You fall asleep without much trouble, but somewhere between 2:45 and 3:20 a.m., the brain lifts out of sleep, the body shifts into alert mode, and the rest of the night becomes light, unstable, and easily broken. And here's the part that almost never gets explained in standard sleep guidance. This 3 a.m. awakening is not a mystery, and it isn't a sign of aging. It's a biological response to an energy gap in the brain. After 60, the brain becomes less efficient at maintaining steady nighttime fuel. When glucose dips, even slightly, the body triggers cortisol to protect the brain. That protective spike is what snaps you awake. But here's the good news. The foods you choose in the evening can give your brain the steady, calming signals it needs to stay asleep naturally. Tonight, we're focusing on 5 simple nighttime foods that directly stabilize the exact pathways older adults struggle with. Glucose steadiness, serotonin support, GABA tone, neuroinflammation, and the cortisol rhythm. No pills, no complicated regimens, just 5 very specific foods that work with your biology. And food number 1 is the most complete nighttime support tool I use with my older patients. Before we dive in, do me one favor. Press like so this information reaches the seniors who truly need it. Tell me in the comments how long 3 a.m. has been breaking your nights. Your stories shape future videos. And subscribe now, because what you learned today is only the beginning of rebuilding deep, continuous sleep. Number 5. Cottage cheese with walnuts. When we look at why so many adults over 60 lose sleep in the middle of the night, one pattern appears again and again. The brain runs into a quiet, gradual drop in energy long before morning. Not a dramatic crash, not a medical emergency, simply a slow drift downward that the body interprets as a threat. And the moment that happens, the nervous system starts nudging cortisol upward to keep you alert enough to compensate. It's subtle, but it is enough to break the continuity of sleep. That's why this first food combination works far better than it looks on paper. Cottage cheese and walnuts aren't trendy or exotic, but together they directly support 2 systems that weaken with age: nighttime glucose stability and calming neurotransmission. Cottage cheese contains casein, a protein digested at a much slower rate than the proteins most people eat at dinner. That steady release of amino acids is especially important after 60 because the brain's ability to regulate glucose evenly through the night becomes less reliable. As glucose drifts, cortisol rises to rescue the brain. And that rise is what wakes many older adults from what should have been a full sleep cycle. A small amount of cottage cheese creates a slow, dependable trickle of nutrients that helps prevent that drift. It doesn't sedate you, it gives your brain the stability it has been missing. Walnuts complete the picture by working through the nervous system rather than the metabolic system. They provide ALA, which converts into DHA, a fat your neurons rely on to communicate smoothly. When DHA levels are low, something that becomes increasingly common with age, signals become slightly noisy and transitions between sleep stages become less fluid. That's when people describe the feeling of their mind rising toward wakefulness for no apparent reason. Walnuts also bring natural magnesium, enough to subtly support GABA activity, the calming neurotransmitter that quiets the brain's internal chatter so sleep cycles can stay linked together instead of breaking apart. When these 2 foods are used together, the effect is a kind of anchored calm. The body doesn't experience a metabolic dip, and the brain doesn't experience a spike in neural tension. Most seniors feel the difference not as sedation, but as the night simply holding together more reliably. You're less likely to drift upward into that light, floating state where any small sensation wakes you. Instead, sleep feels thicker, steadier, and easier to return to if you do shift briefly. To use this combination effectively, timing matters. About 90 minutes before bed, half a cup of cottage cheese and a tablespoon of crushed walnuts is enough to create the physiological support you need. It's light, it's gentle, and it avoids the sugar swings that so often sabotage older adults at night. If the flavor feels too plain, a small drop of vanilla extract keeps it enjoyable without disrupting glucose. This isn't the most powerful intervention in the list, but it lays a foundation the stronger combinations will build on. It restores the basic stability the brain needs, so the deeper repair mechanisms can actually work. Number 4, kiwi and almond butter. Many adults over 60 describe the same late evening pattern. The mind feels tired, the body feels ready for rest, yet the transition into sleep takes too long. Not insomnia in the dramatic sense, just a frustrating delay, a sense that the brain can't quite shift into the state it's supposed to. And when sleep finally begins, it often feels shallow, as if the system responsible for dropping you into deeper stages is underpowered. This combination works because it strengthens the very pathway that weakens most with age, the serotonin to melatonin conversion that anchors the start of the night. Kiwi, especially golden kiwi, has one of the most reliable effects in clinical sleep studies. It contains natural compounds that help increase serotonin availability in the evening. But what matters even more for older adults is how gently it calms neuroinflammation. As we age, low-grade inflammation interferes with the ability to generate melatonin efficiently. That's one of the reasons so many seniors fall asleep later and wake up earlier than they want to. Kiwi helps reopen that pathway. In a controlled trial, adults who ate 2 kiwi nightly showed a significant improvement in sleep efficiency, not because kiwi sedated them, but because the signaling system guiding the onset of sleep began working more smoothly. Almond butter contributes to the same pathway from a different angle. The healthy fats slow digestion just enough to prevent small glucose swings that can keep the brain alert when it should be winding down. More importantly, the magnesium naturally present in almonds supports GABA activity, the chemical braking system of the nervous system. After 60, GABA signaling tends to weaken slightly, which is why many older adults describe feeling tired but wired in the evenings. A tablespoon of almond butter gives the nervous system the nudge it needs to settle, allowing melatonin to rise without being interrupted by alertness spikes. Together, kiwi and almond butter create an evening environment where the brain is gently guided towards sleep rather than pushed. The serotonin pathway is supported, melatonin conversion improves, and the nervous system stops sending mixed signals. For many seniors, this results in falling asleep faster and staying asleep through the first major sleep cycle, the part of the night that sets the tone for everything that follows. To use this pairing effectively, timing matters. About an hour before bed, 1 golden kiwi and a tablespoon of almond butter is enough to activate the pathway without overwhelming digestion. Some people prefer slicing the kiwi and dipping each piece lightly into the almond butter, a simple trick that boosts absorption and keeps the portion balanced. This is one of the gentlest combinations on the list, but also one of the most dependable for adults who struggle specifically with the transition from wakefulness into true sleep. It helps the brain release its grip on the day and begin the biological descent into rest the way it did decades earlier. Number 3, sardines and quinoa. Deep sleep often breaks down not because you can't fall asleep, but because the body can't stay physiologically stable during the deeper stages of the night. The heart becomes a little too active, the brain doesn't fully drop in, and the second half of the night feels lighter than it should. This pairing targets one of the biggest reasons behind that pattern: weakened nighttime stress regulation combined with fragile glucose control. Sardines, or canned wild salmon if you prefer a gentler taste, are exceptionally dense in omega-3s. And these fats do something very specific for older adults. They quiet the sympathetic nervous system at night. When omega-3 levels fall, the stress response system stays slightly elevated, even while you sleep. That subtle activation makes the brain more likely to drift upward instead of staying in the deeper, more restorative phases. Bringing omega-3s back into the evening meal reduces that background tension and keeps nighttime cortisol from rising unnecessarily. They also provide vitamin D in a form the body absorbs well. Vitamin D plays a regulatory role in cortisol timing, and many seniors unknowingly run low in it. When used at dinner, the combination of omega-3s and vitamin D helps flatten the cortisol wobble many people experience between midnight and 3 a.m. Quinoa supports the other half of the problem, overnight glucose stability. As the brain ages, it becomes far more sensitive to dips in glucose, even tiny ones. A short-lived drop can trigger a physiological rescue signal, pushing cortisol upward and pulling you out of deeper sleep. Quinoa's slow-release carbohydrates prevent that dip. Its blend of starch, fiber, and plant protein creates a steady fuel curve that lasts long into the night, instead of the spike and crash seen with pasta, potatoes, or white rice. Together, sardines and quinoa create a dual protection system. Omega-3s calm the stress pathways, and slow-burn carbohydrates prevent the glucose drops that would otherwise provoke a cortisol rebound. Many older adults describe a noticeable reduction in nighttime restlessness when they use this meal consistently. Less internal buzz, fewer abrupt awakenings, and a more grounded, continuous night. To apply this correctly, treat it as a light evening meal eaten 3 to 4 hours before bed. Half a can of sardines and half a cup of cooked quinoa is enough. And here's a simple upgrade that strengthens the effect. Add a pinch of turmeric and black pepper. The curcumin interacts with omega-3 pathways to further reduce inflammation-driven cortisol activity. This combination works because it supports two of the most vulnerable systems after 60, nighttime cortisol control and brain energy stability. When those systems are steady, the night holds together in a way many people haven't experienced in years. Number 2, lemon balm tea and oat crackers. There's a very specific pattern that shows up in many older adults. The body is tired, the eyes are heavy, but the internal rhythm refuses to settle. The mind doesn't race the way it did in your younger years, yet it also doesn't fully quiet. It hovers. This hovering state is a sign that the calming side of the nervous system, the one that should dominate at night, isn't taking over as strongly as it should. That's where this pairing becomes remarkably effective. Lemon balm has a gentle but measurable impact on GABA, the neurotransmitter responsible for turning down the brain's arousal circuits. Unlike chamomile, which works mainly through relaxation pathways, lemon balm slightly enhances the way your brain responds to GABA itself. It's not sedation, it's not drowsiness. It's more like releasing the clutch that keeps the nervous system from downshifting all the way. And that downshift is essential for entering the stage of sleep where noise, light changes, and internal sensations stop pulling you back toward wakefulness. This makes lemon balm particularly useful for the older adult who doesn't necessarily wake up from a glucose drop and doesn't struggle with inflammation-driven awakenings, but simply feels too switched on to stay asleep for long increments. Studies on adults in the 55 to 75 age range show reductions in nighttime arousal markers when lemon balm is taken in the evening. Not because it adds sedation, but because it improves the body's ability to stay in parasympathetic mode. But tea alone isn't enough. A cup of lemon balm can calm the nervous system, yet the brain still requires stable energy during the first half of the night. And that's why pairing it with something as simple as an oat cracker makes such a difference. Oats release glucose slowly and predictably. They don't spike. They don't crash. They provide just enough steady fuel to prevent the mild energy dips that trigger a cortisol nudge upward. Even a tiny cortisol rise at the wrong time can pull you upward into lighter sleep. This combination, a gentle GABA enhancer plus a slow-burning carbohydrate, works like a two-part support system. One keeps the nervous system from drifting upward. The other prevents the brain from sending out emergency energy signals. When both pieces are in place, the night tends to hold together much more consistently. To use this properly, steep a cup of lemon balm tea for 5 to 6 minutes so its active compounds extract fully. Drink it warm, not hot, about 45 minutes before bed. As you sip, have 1 or 2 plain oat crackers. Not a bowl of oats, not a sugary granola bar. Just enough to keep your glucose curve smooth. For many people, this pairing becomes the first evening ritual that noticeably shifts the night. Fewer early rises, less internal tension, and an easier time settling into a continuous stretch of sleep. It's simple, safe, and remarkably well tolerated. A small adjustment that quietly anchors the entire night. Number 1. Turmeric latte and pumpkin seed oil. There is a very specific reason this final evening combination sits at the top of the list. For many adults over 60, sleep doesn't fall apart because of just one system drifting off rhythm. It's the accumulation of several small biological pressures all happening at the same time. A little inflammation in the evening, a little sympathetic tension that doesn't fully shut off, a serotonin pathway that doesn't convert efficiently into melatonin, a glucose curve that tilts just enough to trigger an early morning correction. By themselves, these issues are mild. Together, they create the exact pattern so many older adults describe. A night that begins normally, then unravels from underneath. This is the combination designed to address all of that at once. Turmeric latte, sometimes called golden milk, is more than a soothing, warm drink. The curcumin inside turmeric has one of the most studied inflammation-calming effects found in everyday foods. And this matters because even low-grade inflammation raises nighttime cortisol. Not dramatically, not enough to feel stressed, but enough to prevent the deep parasympathetic shift that anchors connected sleep. Add a small amount of ginger, and the blend becomes even more effective for calming the internal micro-signals that keep the body slightly alert. Older adults often don't realize how much these micro-signals interfere with sleep architecture. You might feel calm, you might feel ready for bed, yet the nervous system is still holding a little tension, just enough to keep transitions between sleep stages unstable. When the inflammation load reduces, that tension releases. The night becomes smoother, quieter, more stable. But the real power of this combination comes from what you add next. Pumpkin seed oil. Pumpkin seed oil contains zinc, magnesium, and naturally occurring tryptophan, a trio uniquely positioned to support serotonin production and melatonin synthesis. Unlike high-dose supplements, which can overshoot and create jittery or unpredictable effects, this is a gentle upstream feed into the pathways older adults rely on most. Zinc supports the enzymes that convert serotonin into melatonin. Magnesium supports GABA activity, allowing the nervous system to quiet without sedation. And tryptophan provides the raw material the brain needs to build a stable nighttime rhythm. Together with the anti-inflammatory effect of golden milk, pumpkin seed oil creates a kind of multi-system alignment that many seniors have never experienced. Not from teas, not from magnesium gummies, and not from melatonin pills. Taken about an hour before bed, the warm turmeric latte relaxes the digestive tract, reduces internal irritation, and signals the nervous system to begin its descent. The pumpkin seed oil then adds the deeper support, the neurotransmitter precursors, the mineral cofactors, the stabilizing fats. The result is something most older adults describe the same way after a few nights. The night feels held together, not heavier, not drugged, just cohesive. Fewer abrupt wake-ups, fewer restless periods, and a much easier time dropping back into sleep if you do wake briefly. To prepare it, warm a cup of milk of your choice. Many people prefer coconut milk because it improves curcumin absorption. Add turmeric, a small amount of ginger, and once it's off the heat, stir in 1 teaspoon of pumpkin seed oil. Sip slowly. Let the warmth cue the nervous system. Let the nutrients do the rest. This combination works not because it sedates you, but because it helps restore the underlying biology that sleep depends on after 60. And when those systems line up, even long fragmented nights can begin to reconnect. A good night of sleep doesn't start at bedtime. It starts in the hours leading up to it. After 60, the systems that hold the night together need clearer signals, calmer glucose patterns, quieter nerves, and a predictable wind down. This routine gives your body exactly that in a sequence that reinforces each step of the sleep pathway. Begin with dinner 3 to 4 hours before bed. Keep it warm, low in sugar, and easy on digestion. Heavy sauces, spicy meals, or high GI sides raise the chances of a cortisol correction later in the night. The goal here is steadiness, enough fuel to prevent a glucose dip, not so much that the stomach stays active past midnight. Then about 90 minutes before bed, choose one of the sleep-supportive foods from the list. Not two, not a full assortment, Just one clear signal is more effective for older adults than overwhelming the system with multiple cues. Whether you choose protein-steadying cottage cheese with walnuts or a serotonin-supporting kiwi with almond butter, give your body time to process it before sleep. 45 minutes before bed, shift the environment. Reduce blue light, dim the room, and switch to softer, amber lighting. This simple change lowers sympathetic activity and allows melatonin to rise naturally, a step many seniors overlook. And in the last 10 minutes, practice a slow breathing pattern, such as 4-2-6. This gently increases parasympathetic tone, helping the nervous system settle so the night can stay connected. When repeated consistently, this routine strengthens the very rhythms that age tends to weaken and gives your sleep the stability it's been missing. If you take only one message from today's video, let it be this. Your 3 a.m. awakening is not a life sentence, and it is not your age. It's a rhythm problem, a signaling problem, a biology that simply isn't getting the support it once did. And the most encouraging truth I've seen after 25 years of working with older adults is this. The night responds quickly when you give it the right inputs. These foods don't sedate you. They don't force sleep. They restore the pathways that hold the night together. Glucose stability, serotonin flow, melatonin timing, nervous system quiet. When those systems reconnect, the night becomes whole again. Imagine lying down, knowing the second half of the night won't collapse. Imagine waking without the heaviness, without the fog, without the quiet frustration of a body that jolted awake before dawn. That is not a fantasy. Many of my patients regain that reliability in a matter of days, simply by changing what they ate in the evening. So tell me in the comments, how long have 3 a.m. awakenings been stealing your sleep? And if this helped you, please like, share, and subscribe. It lets this information reach more seniors who desperately need it. Your nights can return. Let's rebuild them together.